Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Now I give the floor to Hany Tawfik. Hany, as a matter of fact, has made a lot of initiatives in his life, and he has established a lot of things, all that is related to financial documents, direct investment, banking services. Hany has a hand in all that, and he took part in the establishment of a lot of corporations in those fields. He is always clashing, but in a positive manner.
Thank you for this introduction. Well, actually, I have two comments here and a question for the center and a recommendation. So the two comments have to do with the following concerning the debts, the external debts, and of course the keenness of the president and the prime minister to 3 billion are coming from the World Bank. I hope, or maybe I'm asking, is there a matrix where we can see how and when and through what these external debts will gonna be settled? Because this would assure us all concerning this important subject. Number two, as to the e-learning that Dr. Badrawi mentioned. Well, it looks like a beautiful solution, tablets and, and canceling the private lessons, but the culture of really being with the students and, being selective about their learning orientations. So I care for this. This is very important, what you mentioned, Dr. Hossam. That's about the two comments. As to my question to the center, when I look into the results of the information, whether are numbers and classifications, I really care whether the methodology of the benchmark, where there are matrices and so on, is there any quality control done? Because you have to apply the same methodology for all the countries. So there must be a standardization coefficient. What I'm worried about, actually, I looked into an indicator like inflation and our ranking. We are ranking so bad in inflation because I know the results of inflation, and contrary to the central bank, and this is 30% or 33%. This is a continuity spectrum. But what happened is that we had a leap in the prices that made us look like we rank very bad in the inflation. And also this monetary policy led to the fact that the central bank was working about the interest, the high interest, which hindered investment. We had an offer for 20% return. Previous years, we see that this is a big deal, but now less than 30% or 40%, I won't go into it. Anyhow, this is another story, but beyond the scope of this session. But anyhow, if we really want to see the quality and the precision of the numbers, I think that this inflation point, is exaggerated. And here, the stock exchange, I found it 18%, which means that the company's enrollment is 18% compared to the gross national product. But I have another calculation. It's 28, not 18. So I think there's something not going right here. I want to know how did they calculate that and what are the components, because the difference between 18 and 28 is big. The recommendation that I promised to put for the Prime Minister or the Cabinet, whoever is responsible, we should not just, see our ranking and stop at that. No, we should really put into consideration that the indication for the performance of the minister, of any minister, should be based on this competitiveness. For example, tourism. We have a number of tourists, a number of tourist chambers or rooms. I have to ask the Minister of Tourism, he's accountable. He's accountable to show me what is he gonna do and how he's gonna reach the results. And that's an accountability point. This is very important for us to know the criteria of a minister, whether outside the ministry or inside the ministry, ex-ministers. Thank you, Mr. Hany. I have a comment here concerning the inflation point that you raised. 30% inflation. I agree with you in the description, yeah. But now it's not 30, it's 14. So I was just speaking with the representative of the IMF in the coffee break, and his expectation, or their expectation, that it will go down to 12 or 10, and in 5 years span it would go to 7% even. So I know. I agree with you about this 30% points of view. But the e-learning, Dr. Hossam will be speaking about it, but first Dr. Hanan has something to say about, he's apologizing, Miss Gihan, Dr. Gihan, for the name. Well, actually, I have two comments concerning what Mr. Hany mentioned. The first comment has to do with external debts. The external debts, in this respect, we have Dr. Ahmed, the Deputy Planning Minister. We are working working in the economic groups about the vision, economic vision of the state. And we did a lot of work in the economy group, because we've put forward a lot of scenarios for the next 5 years in Egypt. The scenarios are based on the status quo of the economy and the potential. One of the scenarios, or one of the point, is how to deal with the debts. This is very important, because His Excellency the President is very much concerned about the deficit in the budget and the external funds, and the government is very much concerned. We are all into this point to decrease, and we have been agreeing that there is a ceiling for loans and a ceiling for debts. So when any ministry gets any loan, they never go beyond the ceiling. In addition, that the distribution, it's important also to speak about it. If we always calculate the loan versus the investment returns. The second point I want to mention here in the competitive report is that it's not only enough to see where we stand and KPIs, indicators where we stand. That's not the only point. That's not the only point. But we are putting into consideration that in all sectors we have specific objectives in accordance to the economic vision on which we base the scenarios. The vision shows that we have pioneering sectors that we should work, which is the backward-forward linkage, and the Ministry of Industry and Trade should put this on the top priorities, and of course the returns of tourism. We don't need a big infrastructure as much as we need a software. What I mean about software is that I should make use of what is available, but I need a system or a logistic to make it effective. The Minister of Tourism, she does have a plan for this and details, but it's not declared now. But now we are working on the executive plan based on the scenarios, which give us a highlight about the roles of each and every ministry and the role of each and every sector in order to reach the objective of high investment returns. In order to reach the objective or the target that we need, we need 20% of the investment to increase, and components of the GDP, we are now 15. So there is a role that is played by each and every minister and by each and every sector in order to achieve the investment rate. From this description of economy, we found that the first thing is the transformative industries, and the internal trade is also very important. The logistics is very important. We need to create job opportunities and to control the inflation and the inefficiency. Tourism sector is a very promising sector. All these sectors have been studied and are being studied, and the priorities are being put forward. And we are now working for the implementation plan, where, as I said, development will take place according to each sector. I want you to be rest assured concerning that it's under focus and control. There is certain ceiling again and again. We cannot go beyond this ceiling. It's a top priority for us, hand in hand with investment and creating the job opportunities. We never look into debts and loans in the separate silos. No, it's interrelated to everything else. A lot of thanks, Dr. Gihan. I'm sorry for saying Dr. Hanan. I don't know where it comes from, but I'm sorry for that again, for the name. But Dr. Gihan, a lot of thanks for you. As to the size of the debt, the external debt in particular, Tawfik and myself were in Washington last week, and we were with the IMF responsibles and the World Bank in charges. This is not an issue for them. They see that the debts are in very, safe boundaries, especially that it's long term with very simple interest. So it's within the safe boundaries. Don't worry about that. Dr. Hossam Badrawi is going to comment about the e-learning, and then Mr. Tarek Tawfik.
Of course, you are aware that the circuit of civilization change after 2E will change. Employment chances will change, and the 60% of the work opportunities will be replaced. And we must use technology. It's a necessity. But that does not mean at all that we will educate people. We will have a doctor who is brilliant, and then he joins ISIS, for instance, or become a corrupt person. Eventually, creating the spirit is very important. Those who are responsible for education should be responsible for culture and information or media at the same time. This is a unified system. There should be a full vision how I can impact the society in a positive manner. But I will speak of technology will be digital, and we have to do that mandatorily. But at the same time, I want the real challenge to have a proper plan. If I have 1.5 million who join education every year, new, fresh students, I cannot close my eyes and I say I will be able to absorb them. I cannot do that without using technology in one way or another. And if I say that the standard between the brackets age of 18 to 23, like the EU, have a place in higher education, and we have 28%. I'm sorry, we need 150 new universities in the next 15 years. Are we able to do that? This is the challenge that the society should discuss. You can say that I will overcome this problem in that manner. There are means, there are routes. They might not be 100% correct, but this is the role of the civil societies with the government in the next stage. Thank you, Hossam. Tarek Tawfik. He is a man of industry and agriculture and management. He is outstanding in many places. He is the vice chairman of the board of the Egyptian Industrial Federation, and at the same time, he is head of the American Chamber of Commerce. He has exerted great efforts, was able to attract 43 companies visiting next week, and I believe that this is a great success because we speak of the importance of direct foreign investment. 43 American corporations coming here is a great success, and we should congratulate him for realizing this goal. You are congratulating us, all of us, and nobody has extended any congratulations to you. I believe you are the one who brought the 43 corporations, not us. Very briefly, I want to say, I will not be able to comment a lot after all the different observations, the valuable ones that have been made, but there is a great technological leap in the whole world and the human development. If you look at the past thousands of years, very limited people are really educated. They represent about 41%, and this is what made us reach this. When we look at the facts prevailing today, more than half of the world population are either educated or have access to knowledge and learning. Let us imagine that this human capabilities and what they can realize in a short period of time. So what takes place in 1 year exceeds hundreds of years in the past. And this escalates the role of Egypt more because the components of any economy have started to change. It's not the agriculture or the industry that are pillars, but it is the economy of knowledge today that leads the world today. The largest capitalized corporations are based on knowledge. And let us not look to the past, let us look in the future. Let us think of the dynamics of competitiveness. This is my first comment. The second point, which I wish to mention, is any economy today. All the 12 pillars exist and are closely interlinked together. Whether it's a drop in education, in the manpower, this is nothing but a reflection of the tools of supply and demand. When we look at the past years, what are the tools of supply? This is government employment and haphazard economy, which occupy the majority of those who have completed school education. It is not a surprise that this low standard of education is based on the tool of supply and demand. Now, what are the economic drivers for any economy that determine or make a person or youth be directed to education, the development of his skills? As long as there are no pull side, he is like any other person. He starts to work in an unproductive manner. What we find in different countries, even in the US, if we look at the presidential elections there and the education system, they have a lot of pillars that are attractive to the youth, represented, for instance, of the system of healthcare and the system of defense. Today, NASA and the nuclear energy, the entrepreneurship, all this means that the first child today has a direction. He wants to be there or here or there. Today, have lost this today. And hence, very honestly, this is a reflection of our outlook during the past 40 or 50 years. Yet, unfortunately, we have said that the country has to determine its trajectory. Demand will come from where? We are a state-based on the private sector. Or is it going to be based on government investment or national projects? If we determine the trajectory, that the economy and the private sector is the basic pillar today for economic development in Egypt, I believe that we will be fully convinced that we have to remove all barriers and obstacles so that the private sector will be our main pillar with its diversification. Omar has said that we have a great advantage because our economy is diversified as compared to other countries in the region, and this is a privilege because it's a horizontal branch platform. But I can build, although we have backwardness in or middle range infrastructures. I do not start from vacuum, and we have an accumulation of knowledge, weak in some places, but it's a platform I can base my on which I can base myself. If we focus on the trajectory, and the private sector is the leader of the economic growth in the coming years, focusing on the economy of knowledge. Let us look then of all the indicators that we have. And when I speak of the freedom of intellectual property, this is basic. If I look at my ranking is low, the government system, corruption, the efficiency of settlement of disputes, if I speak of customs, and all these are matters that I have to be put on the priority list as long as my trajectory is clear. But as a matter of fact, we are separated between what exists on the different government issues. A few government officials who adhere to their insistence on his capabilities. There is a complete separation between the reality, the state, and hence, without prolonging on that direction, I believe that one of the main objectives of competitiveness is to determine the path of the government and what we seek. Thank you.
A lot of thanks, Mr. Tarek. It's really very well said. Yes, actually, nobody went into this point of the population explosion, and that the population increase eats up all the benefits of development and the positivities of development. And this is a big issue. This is a big challenge. It needs political willingness, implementation, mindset, everything. I think we ignored that for a long time. 2.4 we were ranking, and now we are now 2.7, 2.8. So it's really serious. It's really serious, and I think this subject is marginalized, I would say. So that's why I'm opening this discussion for you.